And we're live and exclusive back. Welcome to Daz TV. Remember to like, subscribe and comment, and big up to you all if you have so far liked and subscribed to the channel. Pleasure, a brother I should say, from a different mother today, and Callum Sanderson from Team Kopish. It's a pleasure, a privilege, my honour, Callum, to get you on today. As I said, I know you were happy to come on, but really and truly it's a big honour to get you on the channel, bro, and to hear your views and opinions and some of your journey and story as to how you got involved in Kopish, and to be obviously a Liverpool fan, the great club that we passionately and dearly speak so much about. Callum, so straight into it, no kissing today. I know Callum loves these things. How did Kopish start, and how did you get involved, and where did it all start with your involvement in the Kopish? Because when I go onto YouTube now, and anybody obviously go over, like, subscribe to Kopish, you see Callum presenting a lot of shows, you're hosting so many with Thrifty and Matt on there as well. And I ask it a question and then I get into it. Before you even get into it, I see there's great humour between you. I had Mont on here a few weeks ago who obviously were a big help support, and even like the Big Six bands. It's a very unique fan channel, but a lot of great humour. Just great atmosphere between the three is on it, and especially when you don't all disagree with something, it's even better. You know, I love that about it. So, tell us about how you first got involved and how it all started for you, Callum, with Kopish.
Yeah, so first and foremost, Daz, thank you for having me on. Thanks for your kind words. And yeah, well, obviously we speak offline, so it's a pleasure doing this, and thanks for having me first and foremost. So with Kopish, so it's really weird how it came about. So I actually knew Matt before I knew Thrifty. So me and Matt go to the same barbers. So my barber I've known since, well, he's known me since before I was born. He's a good friend of my older brother. So I was just in the barbers, and then Matt was in there. Me and my barber always speak about Liverpool because he's a Liverpool fan as well. So I was just like, and then he was like, Matt, what do you think of that? But me and Matt had never spoken. So me and Matt started speaking just about Liverpool randomly. And at the time, him and Drift were doing the Football Banter show on YouTube. So he was like, oh, Cal, I've got this channel. Just check out. Let me know what you think. And I started watching them. Because I started speaking to Matt, started watching them. I'd never met Drift. And I used to watch videos and be like, oh, this Drift guy is a fiery character, isn't it? like, why is he so fiery? So me and Matt continued to speak. And then, you know, the 17-18 Champions League final, so the Madrid loss.
Yeah, in Kiev.
Yeah. So one of my good friends works at Cheeky Sport, is Jermaine. So they have a regular podcast as well. So Jermaine reached out to me and was like, look, we need another Liverpool fan. I know you're not into this YouTube stuff, but obviously we speak and I know you're knowledgeable about your stuff. Can you come down? And I was like, yeah, go for it, sure. So when I got there, Drifty was there. So this is the first time me and Drifty had met or spoken, but obviously I knew of him through watching his videos. So like, obviously we're there trying to defend Liverpool and speaking about Champions League loss, whereas Jermaine and a couple of the other guys are Man U and Arsenal fans, so they're just rubbing it in. So after the show finished, so the show was based up in North London, me and Drift based in South London. So I was on public transport because I came straight from work, and Drift drove. So after the show, like, me and Drift had a quick chat, was just like, yeah, nice meeting you, bro, and I'm sure we'll catch up one day. And he was just like, nah, let me drop you home. And I was like, no, bro, it's a long way, man. It's calm. I'll get transport. And he's like, nah, I insist, man. Like, I'll drop you home. And like, that was the first time me and Drift ever spoken. And I think what kind of resonated with me was the fact Drifty didn't know me from the next person, but he still decided to give me a lift. And I was like, it takes a nice person to do that. And I resonate to nice people. I resonate to people who are willing to help other people. And like, in the car back, me and Drift just had a really nice chat. We just proper cool. Obviously, I was saying to him, I know Matt as well through like the barbershop and all that. And he was just like, look, please stay in contact because like, we'd love to have you come on the channel, like you articulate yourself well. And I said to him straight, I was like, look, I'm not a YouTuber. I've got no YouTube presence. Me coming on your show is not going to help you grow. And he was like, no, just come on, try it. So I was like, all right, cool. So started working with Matt and Drift a little bit. And then what happened is they had another two members of the Football Banter show, but they decided to sort of step away from YouTube. So Matt and Drift were kind of thinking, what are they going to do? And at the time I was working with them off and on, and they literally just asked me one afternoon and was like, look, we're going to rebrand into a Liverpool channel and would love you to be a part of it. So at the time I was doing my own podcast as well. And I was like, do you know what? Yeah, I'd be up for that. So literally there and then, probably back in like I think it might have been like 2019, just decided to go for it. And then from there, we've kind of just grown from strength to strength, and the support, the love, the the advice we get from other YouTubers, from subscribers, from people who support the channel has just been overwhelmingly positive, and just feel I on a personal level, I just feel extremely blessed.
Yeah. And it's again, Callum, that kind of backstory there you were saying, that's kind of a real, if you want to do something, just go and do it. And sometimes you need that bit of luck and meet someone, and you might be hesitant on doing something. But obviously YouTube was made, you host and presenting shows was made for you. You conduct yourself brilliantly, as I said, you off air. And it's not just saying that to be nice, you know what I mean? But it definitely is. And like, I mean, if you're seeing Kopish now and you weren't one of the main hosts, Drifty or Matt, it just wouldn't be the same, would it? So sometimes things are meant to be and it falls into place, and that was brilliant. And look, this is something I see as going even bigger and better from strength to strength with this game, because there's no doubt about it. It's an asset, it's a strength that you have. And look, it's not for everybody, but I think that's kind of a role model in itself to look, if you want to do something, reach out to me. I'll give you a help and a hand. I had Monts on here a few weeks ago talking about he didn't expect to hear that and back from you, and he did, and he was really bigging you up with that, and that's great, because obviously he's seen you as someone that could go on, present this, do really well, and now he was someone that I'd like to do that, you know what I mean? Probably didn't feel the most confident, and you gave him that bit of confidence and that bit of, what would I say, that next step, and that's what happened. So that's brilliant. Big shout out there, Marshall. Big up Daz TV. Shout out, Marshall.
Big shout out to Monts. Can I just touching on that? So again, the reason I do that, and it's not even because, again, shout out to Monts. He's obviously told the backstory between how me and him started speaking, but I would never sort of go on. I'd never come on here and tell you the people I speak to behind the scenes and try and help. And the reason I wouldn't do that is because one, I don't do it for clout or to say, look who I've helped. But at the same time, I believe in this world, if you're in a position where you can help someone and it doesn't cost you anything, it's not going to hinder your life, it's just do it. Like, so when Monts reached out to me, I was just like, look, the way I look at it, it took him balls to reach out to me. He didn't have to reach out to me. You got ego, you got pride. He could have thought, I could reach out to him, I'm not going to get a response, or he's not going to help. He reached out to me, and the least I could do is at least respond. And the way I look at it is, if I respond and like me and him don't get on, then it was just a conversation and we both move on with our lives. But if he responds and we get on and I can help him, then that's another person who could potentially be successful and help someone else in the future. It's a conveyor belt. If I help someone, he should be able to help someone. So in my opinion, Monts now can help someone else. That person can help someone else, because someone's had to help me to be where I am. So the least I can do is help the next person.
Yeah, and it goes back to the saying, it's nice to be nice and it's kind to be kind, but you proven that, you know, actions speak louder than words, Callum. So you've proven that, and that's great. And obviously, look, we're all a big believer of that, and a lot of people say it, but there's probably not enough people in the world to do that. So it's great when you do meet someone that does that and it's genuine. Speaking of Kopish, back to it, I see obviously now you're selling merchandise, there's a clothing range, there's hats, there's different stuff. Where can people buy that, and what sort of stuff have you got, and how is that going at the moment is another question.
Beautiful, bro. So the best place to check out the merch is if you go on our YouTube channel, or if you just go on any of our social media, we've got a link directly to our merch, and you can find, so we've got hats, so we've got beanie hats, we've got caps, t-shirts, hoodies, and we've got t-shirts and hoodies for men and women as well. We're going to start working on trying to do a children's range. Obviously, I've got a little one, Matt's got 2 little ones, so obviously we want to get some stuff out for people who've got families and children as well. So that's probably the next step. But in terms of starting it, I think it's something we always wanted to do from the beginning, but we wanted to sort of build ourselves first and then sort of do one step at a time. Because I kid you not, anyone who's looking to do merchandise, I hope this doesn't put them off, but it's a lot of work behind the scenes. I think, and even me, I was really naive to it. I thought, you just design a t-shirt, send it off, and then boom. But bro, it's so much work goes into it. It's almost another job within itself. But when you finally see that website go up and you see people buy merchandise and things like that, again, it's just humbling. Like, the word I will keep on using is I'm humbled, and I'm just really grateful for the position I'm in to be in this situation.
Yeah, and I'd also as well suggest to people, I would have been on here today now with a Kopish top if I had bought one, but for people that don't know, I've a few things now, priorities in life with the missus and buying the house and that. So I will, in the next couple of weeks for the season starts, I'll have one, and obviously I'll support the channel as well as much as I can with buying that. And look, I suppose for people that do support the channel and want to support you and see us doing more, even if it's something that they don't particularly like it just goes all proceeds to the channel to help it grow and get better, and for obviously better quality content out there, because that's what everybody wants to see. And I know yous are always will put the pressure on yourselves. That's the type of people you are, to keep expanding and getting more out there to the community. And the community is fantastic. Like, you want the Kopish all the time. You have 2 hours, 3 hours, I think sometimes 4 hour shows, which is a lot of dedication time you put into that, and obviously you get the views for that and the support. But fair play, just I have to say that it's tough work. That, you know, those nights where I'm at home and you've had a bad day and you're wrecked and you watch it and you say fair play to the lads, that's brilliant. They'll always leave a comment and a like, and I think that goes a long way. You know, something so small takes a couple of seconds to do, or half a second to like something. So Callum, that's great with Kopish. And look, for, as I said to everybody, there won't be many tuned in now. There will be over the day or two, and later on, few people will. It's gorgeous here in Dublin, so anybody tuning in Dublin's probably out sunning themselves in the Phoenix Park and enjoying bathing in the sun, which is great. What are your first ever memories of football? So where did it all start for you becoming a supporter of football, whether that was just supporting football or Liverpool? Where did all that start, Callum?
So it was, I was fortunate that growing up, we had cable in the house. So we had Sky Sports. And I remember the first game I watched from start to finish was the Liverpool versus Arsenal game, where Robbie Fowler scored a hat-trick in 4 minutes.
Quickest hat-trick before Mane.
Before Mane. And I just remember watching that game. And that, I think I was only, 3 at the time, maybe 3 or 4. And I just remember watching it, and it just instantly, I was just hooked. And I was just like, I love this sport. Because sort of growing up then, it was football and wrestling, so WWF at the time. And I was like, those are my 2 things from like the age of 3 or 4, from my earliest memories. Those are the 2 things. And like, I've got an older brother, so me and him would constantly play like WWF and stuff like that. So when I got into football now, just like, I'm in. Like, Robbie Fowler's got me, and he instantly became my favorite player, him and Steve McManaman. And then it was just Liverpool. Like, everything was Liverpool. And obviously growing up and going to school in South London, I had a lot of friends at the time who were either Man United supporters because of like their parents or friends or family members. And then you had Arsenal and you had Chelsea. They were the 3 main teams. But for me, it was always Liverpool. Like, Liverpool was my first love as a sports brand, as a sports entity, as a team. And from that day, I've kind of just always been into Liverpool. And I think from that age, like, it was the one thing I used to sort of beg my mum to let me watch, like, live and weekly. Like, obviously I'm 4 at the time, 5 at the time. I can't demand the TV and sort of turn around to my older brother and my mum and say, I'm watching this now. But like, thankfully they both let me watch football on like a Saturday or Sunday when it was live. And from there, I just fell in love with it more and more, started playing a little bit when I was young. And then here today, where it's one of my biggest loves in life.
Yeah, and that was similar to myself, Callum. I would have grown up, and I remember one of the first games I watched, we grew up, and it didn't come really from a football family. It turns out, as a couple of the family siblings, cousins that are now would have been 8 to 10 years older than me. But obviously when I was that age, they were teenagers, only a kid, so wouldn't have had much, what would I say, hanging around with them. There wouldn't have been any. So it was just the lads you grew up with in school and on the road and whatever, and in the area. Some supported Liverpool United, 1 or 2 supported Newcastle, and it just, me from watching Fowler, McManaman, I remember that game, obviously the famous game, Premier League game 4-3. That was one of my first memories, but it took me a while to kind of grow into it. And then one of the first ones was Liverpool United. We got beaten Cantona Scores FA Cup final. I was around the communion, or the year maybe before me communion that year. So you just have those memories, but it did take a while to gradually get into it and start buying the merchandise and kind of understanding the sport, because you're obviously still only young and you probably think you know more than what you do. But that was a great insight, because similar to myself, Fowler, McManaman, and then obviously Owen come on the scene in the late 90s, early 2000s. So so that was a long time ago, and now look at where we are and what we're discussing and talking about, and nearly doing it for a living at this stage.
Exactly,
your worst memory and best memory. I'm going to ask 2 now. I know this is this of football in general, whether you were at a game, you witnessed a game, whether it was Liverpool related or not. I know I have a lot of worst games and a lot of great games, and look, there's no real right or answer in this. They're very hard, but I suppose whatever sticks out to you the most. We'll start with the worst game. Get the bad one out of the way. We're first. Save the best to last.
There's been a few, I'd probably say the Chelsea 2-0 loss when Gerrard slipped. That really knocked me for 6. So anyone who knows me really well would know, like, growing up, Gerrard was just like, he was my ultimate icon. Like, if you said to me right now, you can meet any past or present footballer is Steven Gerrard. Just him in a room, 30-minute chat like that, and that's me set. So growing up, it was always, I need to see Gerrard win a Premier League trophy. Like, he's the one Liverpool player I've not seen lift it that fully deserves it. Like, obviously we had your Alonsos, your Mascherano's, your Fernando Torres's, but Gerrard's the one who, he's Mr. Liverpool, isn't he? Like, he deserved to lift it as a captain. He deserved that. So I remember watching that game, and I was just sitting in my front room, and I was thinking, all right, get to half time, regroup. Hopefully Sturridge comes on, because Sturridge didn't start the game. And then the ball comes to him and he just slips, and I'm just like, no. And then the bar scores, I'm just like, no, surely not. Surely this can't be how the story goes. And obviously Chelsea go on to get the second goal. We capitulate against Crystal Palace. But that moment, that game was the hardest one for me. Like, obviously we've seen our team lose Champions League finals, Europa League finals. But that was the hardest one, because it just felt as though it happened to the one player that didn't deserve it. And it was just a cruel situation. My heart broke for him that day.
Yeah, and it was a very defining moment that season. I know it's over 38 games, but that was huge. Whether he slipped or not that day, it was a game that we wouldn't have won, didn't it? Not? It didn't seem like. I don't know if you go in at half time 1-0 down. Did we go in at 1-0 down or 2-0?
Yeah,
was that at half time?
1-0 down at half time.
1-0, so you've always a chance, but then the second half he gets that slip, and then. Yeah, it was just a typical Mourinho. It wasn't a masterclass that day. Turns up, park the bus, sketches on. And look, we talk about parking the bus as being a negative thing, but I'm always believed that you have to find a way of breaking them down. They got the result. They scored 2 that day. We didn't. We didn't create a lot. We were really off it. It was very pedestrianised in the day, and we just weren't sharp enough and obviously clinical. But I don't think we created enough to be clinical. And that was a season where I think come Christmas, it was hard to really believe we were going to do it, because we weren't the best team in the league on paper. You know, we'd great, like, even strength and depth. Like, you have Gerrard and Henderson, who was starting to emerge and really see the best off the engine, especially on them. We had, we were letting a lot of goals in defensively. I think 50 odd goals. That was a worry. Mignolet wasn't really the great keeper like what we had in Reina or Alisson now currently, and it's Suarez, it's Sterling, it's Sturridge, and look, they were causing havoc. They were
Coutinho as well.
And Coutinho, in that number 10 role, unbelievable. And we were just getting goals for fun. After the big win against Arsenal, I think it was 5-0 or 5-1. We really then start believing, and then we went, I think, winning 11 games in a row. And look, we overcame so many hurdles and the odds. Really, we never probably should have been where we were when you look at the two teams, but. Cruel, absolutely cruel, and one that a lot of people remind Gerrard of all the time. But I mean, look, football doesn't do sentiment. If it did, he would have won a league title. You know, he would have won on his last day against Palace when we got beaten. Or probably up there with the best ever Liverpool player for you, would you say, from what you witnessed?
In my lifetime, he's the best Liverpool player we've had. I'd go as far to say that he is our best ever Liverpool player. I know John Barnes was extremely talented. Kenny Dalglish, obviously, they call him King Kenny for a reason. Fowler, Hansen, Rush. It's just, I think you can put Gerrard in any team, in any era, and he dominates. And I just think, unfortunately for Gerrard, he came along at a time where Liverpool weren't the best team and are all close to being the best team. I think, let's say, for example, we had a peak Gerrard in this current Liverpool team. We win everything. You had Gerrard back in the day when it was Souness and Rush and Kenny. They still win everything. So I just think Gerrard just came at a bad time, unfortunately. And it was a shame.
He carried us so much, didn't he? Showed the loyalty, the dedication, the commitment. Extraordinary player. Couldn't speak highly enough for him. And as you said, Mr. Liverpool, absolutely. Obviously, we'll have a bit more of a positive chat now with the best game, Callum. But obviously a lot of games, I think even under the last couple of years, like Jurgen Klopp, there's been so many that stand out. We all know the big games, but what would your best game ever that you've witnessed been to? Or
I think, I know it's going to sound like recency bias, but I think it has to be the Barcelona home leg in the Champions League. Like, and again, I know people aren't going to believe me, but my barber can vouch for me. The day after the first leg where we lost 3-0, I had an appointment at the barbers. Went to the barbers, and he was just like, "It's done, you know, Cal." And I was like, call me stupid, call me naive, but I don't think it's over. And he was like, there's no way Barca don't score. And I was like, you're right, but when we played them at the Nou Camp, we lost 3-0, but one of the goals was a deflected goal and fell into the path of Messi. The other one was a sublime free kick. We could have scored 4 goals ourselves at the Nou Camp, but we just didn't take our chances. So I was just like, we get it back to Anfield. I don't think this game's over. I think we still go through. And you're just like, yeah, you're just being typical now. And I was like, there's something in me that believes it. Yeah. And I think that game literally had drama from the first second right up to the last second. And to do what we did in that game, for me, just it went beyond football. It was character, teamwork, belief. Just that match itself could have been a movie and just been depicted in so many different ways. And it's like little things like Robertson gets injured. He's the best left back in Europe at the time, and Milner has to go to left back against a Barcelona team that has got Coutinho, Messi, and Suarez.
Yeah.
And then Gini comes on, considering Gini didn't start because he played false 9 in the first leg, didn't start, and you could visibly see he was peed off when he was coming on. He changes the game. Origi plays because Firmino and Salah aren't available through injury. He becomes a hero. Henderson runs himself to the point where he can't literally physically run anymore. Van Dijk and Matip put on a masterclass. Alisson makes about 3 extremely important saves. Then you've got Trent, who's the hometown youngster who comes up with the assist for Gini's first goal, and then the amazing assist for the 4th goal. It's like
the corner taken quickly one, the iconic moment.
It's like every single player has a story from that game, as well as
even Fabinho, an early
yellow card, and then has to manage his way through the rest of the game.
Yeah,
for me, that game was just incredible. It had absolutely everything. Shaqiri gets the assist for Wijnaldum's second goal. Mane puts on a performance of a lifetime. It's just, that game had absolutely everything, and then that for me just made me go from thinking, Klopp is amazing to he's going to potentially be the best manager we've had since the likes of Paisley and Shanks.
Yeah, I fully agree. I remember watching that game, leaving work a bit earlier that day, coming home, not really knowing what to expect. Still confident we would win, still confident that we'd be proud at the end of it. But disappointing because we'd obviously been beaten 3-0 and it could have been 4 at the end. And but Dembele misses and it turns out that was huge. I mean, greatest ever Anfield night, greatest ever Anfield comeback, one of the best in Europe, up there with the 3-0 down in Istanbul. And as you said, like, I remember Instagram that night. We scored, they scored 1. Barca, surely they're not going to score 5. If we score 1 was their thing. So obviously, if they get a goal, we need 5. And it's like, I mean, whatever chances we have of getting 4, 3 or 4, but 5 is definitely a momentous task. Just unbelievable. I mean, it happened to them the year before against Roma. You didn't think they were going to collapse like they did. You thought, okay, they weren't great in the first leg, and Liverpool didn't deserve to lose 3-0. But that's going to be enough for Barca now to get through. The fact that Liverpool didn't score, didn't capitalise, it's going to just go down as one of those. Then you go into the game, you've no Firmino, you've no Salah. You're relying on Origi, who got a late goal at Newcastle a couple of nights before at 3-2, gets the late goal to the last day of the season. But no one's thinking of that. Everyone's just thinking, let's do this tonight. Remember, the atmosphere on the night was unbelievable. Just a truly just unbelievable, breathtaking game. One of the best games you'll ever see. To be alive for it, to witness it, to the cop at the end, the atmosphere. That night I remember watching that game and thinking, you don't want any of these lads to be sold, because you say if they can perform like that in one game, you know, if they get things right, they get that bit of luck, they get a good start next season, they can go on and win the league.
Yeah.
And it turns out we did, obviously, but you were even looking at Shaqiri that night, Trent, Matip, Van Dijk, the effort they put in, the commitment, the unity, and that just never go, because they Barca rattled. I remember that game where Barca couldn't cope. And you're just looking then at Messi gets the ball, he kind of gets glided by 1 or 2, he gets fouled then, and Milner is there. And I mean, what a player to have in the big occasion, a player when it's backs against the wall and when you need someone with a bit of grit, determination, and do nothing stupid. I can't speak highly enough of that night. I've ran out of words what to say. What every great thing, every big thing, every emotional thing you can say goes into that night, and people will never understand if you don't support Liverpool what it meant. It was 100%. Absolutely breathtaking, and it was like the final. And then that point, then obviously you think, well, Klopp has lost a couple of finals. We go to a final. The next day, Spurs have an unbelievable task as well. And look, not a down on Spurs in any way at all. I've huge respect for them as a club, but it was nothing like the comeback against Barcelona. As soon as they go 2-2, was anybody's. Ajax weren't as hyped up as they were made up to be, and they just really they just went for it, didn't they? And we seen the final, they hadn't got as much game management. They weren't as professional. They played well enough in the final in Madrid, bit of creativity, but a lot of huff, but no puff. You know what I mean? And it was just Liverpool. Like, it was on their name as soon as we went through that night. We had it, and then I suppose a couple of days later, I remember going to the pub and watching Liverpool and Wolves and thinking, whatever happens today, just once we do the job, once we win, because there'll be nothing worse than us drawing or losing, and then same happens to City. You know, just win. If City win, they win. Okay, we'll take it. But you knew then the Champions League final was the big one. And I always say to people, once Liverpool win that first league title, if it takes a long time for us to win it again, then okay, obviously we'd be disappointed, whatever. But the European Cup is special. I mean, it's champions of Europe or champions of England, what they take, but it's just some serious affiliation and affection that Liverpool have, and I have with the European Cup. I just think it's nothing beats it, you know what I mean? But we do got to go on now and win that second league after getting one taste of it. And you don't want to
got a taste for it now.
Yeah, absolutely. So that would have been your best game then, Callum. That's by far signed out. Okay, on to a bit more present, upcoming moments. Who do you want to see Liverpool sign this summer, and why? And the reason why I ask that is because every day of the week we're linked with bringing in someone, then that person will think we're going elsewhere. And it's really silly season now, isn't it? We're only a couple of days officially into the transfer window, and it's hard to know what's going to happen to Liverpool this summer, but it is a huge summer, isn't it? And we all knew back a couple of months ago that this was going to be big, you know. What's your take on this upcoming transfer market, and who obviously would you like us to sign and why?
So this one, it's weird because we kind of say this every year, but I think this is the biggest transfer window we would have had under FSG. And the reason I say that is because after we won the Champions League, I genuinely think that we dropped the ball. I don't think we went big enough in the transfer market. And again, I don't think we needed overhaul changes, but I think we could have maybe added 2 quality players to the squad that summer, and we didn't. Fortunately, we went on to win the league, but I think us not doing anything that summer has kind of left us chasing ourselves a little bit. So 19-20 summer, after we won the league, we signed Jota, Tsimikas and Thiago. Great incoming purchases, but we were left short at centre-back. Now, already we've acquired the services of Konate, which I think is a very good acquisition. However, I do think we're still a bit short, especially with Gini going. And in theory, Gini's replacement has been at the club since Gini's been here. Because if you think back, Ox was brought in to replace Gini, then gets injured. Kate was brought in to replace Gini, never sort of solidifies himself in the role. So we've got 2 players there who should be able to just walk into the role now. However, because of their injuries and inconsistencies, we're still looking for another midfielder. If we're playing fantasy land, the player that I would sign is Haaland. I think he has all the tools and attributes to slotting in between Mane and Salah and just cause absolute havoc up there. However, I don't think that's realistic. So if I'm going to think of a realistic signing, I'd probably go with someone like, and here's it, where it's a bit tough, like Neto would be the one I'd really want to go for. And I know he's injured at the moment, but he is still young, and I think he'll come back from the injury fine. But he's the one. I think he can play both left and right. He's got pace for days. He's good on the ball. He's tricky. He's got a good shot on him. He's very creative from the wide areas. And I think he'd be a very different player to Salah and Mane, but he'd also have that age on his side where he knows that even though he might not be a starter week in, week out, he'll become a starter as Mane and Salah start to wind down their careers. And I think getting him now before he really goes on to shatter the ceiling would be a good acquisition. He's
also Premier League experience, which I think is priceless. I think when Jota came in, he had 2 years experience. I think Neto now is 2. Yeah. And as you said, he's young, he's hungry, has obviously that aggression. And he could evolve. And I think whatever player comes into Liverpool, our recruitment has been brilliant in the last couple of seasons. They've improved massively under Klopp, having that kind of father figure, that role model there. And obviously, whatever he does and says to the players behind the scenes just seems to make him that 10 foot taller, you know what I mean? Definitely. I would love to see Neto, and I know you've talked on other streams before, Callum was out, so I was probably expecting him to come up. And it's an interesting one on Haaland because he's only 20, 21. very, very experienced player, Champions League, obviously in Bundesliga, and then in the international for Norway. And he's like, I think he's more goals and appearances, and that says it all, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think, like as you said, it is a huge summer. There's no doubt about it. Do you think we're going to spend big, though? Do you think the next spend, like, is it going to be different to any other season? And do you think any big name players going to go?
So first of all, I don't think any big name players will go. And I pray to God they don't, because if it does, I think it's going to really split the fan base. In terms of big names, I don't think we will. And it is a frustration of mine, if I'm going to be honest. And again, I don't expect us to do a Man City and a Chelsea where every summer there's a big name coming in pretty much. But I think FSG been here 11 years now, and you wouldn't say they've apart from Thiago, which again, granted, congratulations on that deal, you wouldn't say they brought in a big name or a name that you say, yep, is ready-made right now. And I think that's my frustration, is that I don't want to continue to have to wait 2 or 3 years to see a player develop all the time. I want to see a player come in and be ready now. And I think the issues were very obvious last season. We didn't have any players from midfield who were really scoring. We were lacking in centre-back depth, which we kind of knew would happen because Gomez and Matip are always getting injured. And we didn't have a natural out-and-out striker, which, when you look at the run we went on where we lost 6 games at home in a row, or was it 7, one of the two? You look
6
back
games
at
and only scored 3 goals, or didn't score any in those 6. I think from January to March, we'd only scored 3 league goals. 2 at Villa, 1 against City, a penalty, Salah scores.
Exactly.
It was really poor form. We were in the depths of it then.
So my thing was, right, you need a centre-back. You need a goal-scoring midfielder minimum, and a striker is imperative. And again, everyone knows I'm Firmino's biggest fan. He's my favourite current Liverpool player. But I'm not naive to look at him and say he's not a finisher. That's not his game. It never has been, never will be. Go and get someone who's naturally good in that position, and then you loosen the reins on Firmino. He can either play a 10 or he becomes a squad rotation player. Doesn't have to be sold, but in my opinion, when you go into the market, you aim to buy players better than what you have in most positions. And then those players who were in the first 11, you try and make them part of the rotation. If not, you try and bring in a player like a Jota, who's not as good as Mane or Salah right now, but is really willing and ready and able to actually challenge them right now.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I agree with you, Callum. I think, like, this summer, there's obvious areas that we need strengthening in, and it's not just about areas need strengthening in, it's to build a team. We need to have more strength and depth. Now, what I will say about last season is it was a freak season. None of us would have foreseen 3 main centre-backs getting injured for the length of time that they did. I think one gets injured in January, he's a Matip, and he's out down the season. We're already Van Dijk and Gomez, and it was strange, it was freaky. We'd COVID, we'd no fans, we'd so many injuries. We'd Adrian and goal for more than what we wished and hoped for. Everything just really, really went against us, and people don't understand how much, like, if I used to say to you, over the last 5 games of the season, we're in the position that we're in, and you're playing an inexperienced Reece Williams and Nat Phillips. We're all calling him Nat Van Dijk, Cam as you like, but I mean, the reality is, Callum, he was very inexperienced. He makes his debut the 30th or the 34th of October against West Ham. We went 2-1. He's man of the match, and straight away we're all thinking, brilliant, looks really good, kept the basics, very strong, composed, compact. But we're not naive enough to know he's not the fastest. He's no Rolls Royce. He's not what we need long term. But he continued. He grew in strength. He got better and better. Then he was left out for a while. I've seen games where Reece Williams was coming on. So I would think next season going in, what's the harm in having 5 centre backs? At the club. I mean, what's the harm? I mean, if you have, because we know Gomez gets his fair share of injuries. If we keep Matip, we know the same. So you could nearly say, that eliminates it to 3. Virgil van Dijk comes back from a long-term injury. He could get injuries quicker now. I might not have that same. He's obviously going to be the same presence and have the same desire, but he might not be that like for like that he once was. You know what I mean? He might lose that a little bit, but I'm not going to get into kind of that negative about it, because you could say that about anybody come back from injury. I think his attitude is unbelievable, and that passion, everything he has. So I would expect him to come back, hit the ground running. You've Kanate there, who we know has already had a couple of injuries. Now, look, we've seen when Gerrard started off in his career, he got injuries and young, and he's only a young lad, and he potentially he's going to be world class. He's only turned 22, so he's still very, very young. I just what's the harm? Have 5 centre backs at the club.
I completely agree.
But do you think Matip will be there next season, or do you expect him to go on? Now is probably the time we're ever going to sell him, isn't it? But look, I mean, again, he's the type of player that will miss 30 games, come in and be man of the match then. You know, he just fits right in there. He's killed a cucumber, and a player I'd be disappointed to see go, but if you want availability, I could understand why, because he's let us down so much.
Yeah, I'm like you. I'm 50-50 on it. I think Matip, when he's fit and able to play, I think is our second best centre back. I've always maintained he's better than Gomez, and again, I rate Gomez. It's just I think Matip's a level ahead of him. But his availability is a killer, and I think the only way I'd sell Matip is if I know I'm bringing in a top class centre back, and I don't think we'd do that. Like, say for example, we could sell Matip and bring in Varane, then I'm on board. But I see us selling Matip and bringing in, and again, not to be disrespectful to any player, but a basic centre back, and I don't want that. Especially, and that's why I echo so much about keeping all 5 centre backs, because if you have 5 centre backs, then you are able to rotate more. So you're not putting too much pressure on any one centre back. And I think bringing in Konate, having Nat Phillips now, who should be more confident in himself, and Klopp should be more confident in him as well, and the rest of the players, I think would be brilliant for us. Again, he's homegrown as well, so it just fills one of the places in that quota as well. Me personally, I'd keep 5 centre backs till January. If Nat Phillips feels as though he's still not getting enough game time, then obviously we can address that. And if he does want to leave, then we can allow him to leave. I'd still send him out on loan, and then hopefully he does well on loan, and that boosts up his price. But I would keep 5 centre backs going into the season and not sell one right now.
Yeah, I agree totally. And you'd keep Nat Phillips, would you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he's proved himself.
Yeah, he has. One of the lads shouting out there, come on, you Super Saints evening. Good evening to you too, pal. Yeah. Pats is one of our local clubs here, Callum, and we actually have a young goalkeeper on loan from Liverpool. Jay, his surname's Jay Gerati. He's on loan there, so it's only fans allowed. Polish keeper. Yeah, he's doing really well there. And
is it Jaros?
Jaros, that's the one. Jaros, I knew it was Jay. I couldn't think of it off the top of my head. Yeah. But he's doing really well there at Pats, and they're on course to win the league as well with Shamrock Rovers. So hopefully they do one of the local semi-professional clubs here. So Callum, on to the final one. Save the best to last. Obviously, again, no right or wrong. Yeah, it's Jaros there. He's saying he's doing great for him. No right or wrong in this. Your current best World 11 at the moment. Now, I had Keith on here a couple of weeks ago in the LFC Day Trippers, and he got the same. And
Keith.
Big shout out to Keith. Yeah, he's great, isn't he? It's just, I suppose it's one of those that there's so many good players out there, and you look at the Euros now, and there's players that you don't hear too much of, but are having an unbelievable tournament. You'd say they could do a job there as well, and maybe they go a bit unrecognised because of the league they're in. Like, we know, obviously, the Italian league now doesn't get as much recognition as it did. There's some great players now, hence why even the Italian team are doing so well. So passionate, committed, and dedicated. There's real work rate in that team and serious unity. What I suppose, from starting from keeper to whatever system you want to go with, it's a 4-2-3-1, 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3. Who's your current best 11, and why would you go with this current best 11?
Cool. So in goal, Alisson Becker. I think he's the best all-round goalkeeper in world football. I've said that for a long time now. He may not be the absolute best kicker, but he's one of the best. He might not be the absolute best shot stopper, but he's one of the best. He might not be the most commanding, but he's one of the best. All of the areas you look for in a top goalkeeper, he's close to being one of the best. So for me, he's the one I'd have in goal. Right back is between two. It's between Trent and Kimmich, but I'm going to give it to Trent, because I think as fans sometimes we focus on negatives rather than pulling out a player's positives more, and his positives far outweigh his negatives. And watching a right back at his age dominate the game from his position is quite scary. Like, he dominates a game from his position. He almost is like a quarterback. He's like Xabi Alonso playing at right back sometimes. It's scary. So I'm going to go Trent at right back. And
as well there, Callum, sorry, just back on Trent. He's the type of player, he's the modern day fullback. He's the type of fullback that when people look at, they want to be a Trent Alexander-Arnold. You know, I know there's the thing of no one wants to be a Gary Neville, but you really do want to be a Trent Alexander-Arnold, because he's the type of player that's so positive. He's looking forward, going for goal. And you're right. And going back to that point, I think it's a very good point. It's something that's a little bit pissed me off once or twice before where fans are saying
same.
there's a bit of negativity because he's not the best defensively. But I've seen him defend him 1-to-1. He's been terrific. I've seen him defend him 1-to-1 and it hasn't went his way all the time. But this was a lad that at 20, 21, 22 learned the trade, has 10 to 12 years left at the highest level if he looks after himself as well as what he does at the moment and should do, especially with all the sports science and that now in the game. For me, like what an unbelievable world-class player. I mean, you can't say, they don't defend the best, but they're great at going forward. They've assist, unbelievable free kick, can score goals from anywhere. Can this quick bit of thinking against Barcelona and experience, unbelievable team, and get sets up for Origi. So you can't, like for me, you're clutching at straws. You're just looking for something to have an argument. For me, Trent, I've seen him at the end of the season there. He really evolved defensively, strong, so good. But going forward, and you're right, he dominated the game. Remember the game at Old Trafford? He was head and shoulder. He was forced to everything. There was an opposite stats that come up, and he was forced to everything. And we're talking about a side that potentially was to challenge City. That at one stage this season we're going to win the league. So you can't say to me that he's not good enough. You know what I mean? Really, really not. I think Trent he doesn't get the praise he deserves, and I think someone asked me a while ago about him going to the Euros, and I says, well, it'd be great with development, but to be honest with you, I'm not a big international fan. And I says it doesn't bother me. If he goes with England, he goes with England. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I says I don't think it's going to be any skin off his nose. I think he'll focus, he'll recharge, he'll put the feet up, and he'll go again next season. And there's no, and I've seen some of his pre-workout pictures and pre-season. He looks unbelievable. Looks like he's even gaining more muscle. So what an unbelievable player, and he's a complete athlete. I have to say for Trent. I couldn't praise him enough.
Definitely. Left back, it's going to sound like I'm doing a full Liverpool 11 here, but left back, I've got to go with Robbo again. For all the reasons I say of Trent, he just does everything brilliant. Defensively brilliant, attacking wise, he's brilliant, and he reads the game so well. For me, it's Robbo at left back. It's the easiest choice in this 11, along with Virgil van Dijk. I think that's self-explanatory.
Yeah, Rolls Royce, world class,
phenomenal centre back. Here comes the issue though. It's the second centre back who you're partnering with, because this feels as though it changes every season. A couple of years ago, people would have said Koulibaly. Now this season, some people are saying Ruben Dias. It's like it's always changing who's that second best centre back in world football. If I was going to pick one though, I'd actually go. I know this is probably going to like throw some people into sort of orbit, but I'd actually go Varane. I think consistency over the years, I think, has been very underrated. And don't get me wrong, he has a mistake in him, but so does Virgil. I think everyone forgets that Virgil has a mistake in him as well. Every single player in world football has a mistake in them now, because we play a far more expansive and far more risk-taking game than we did back in the 90s, for example. So you are going to see more mistakes because players will take more risks now because you're trying to play progressive football. So for me, it'd be Virgil and Varane. Then centre midfield. As my DM, so I'm going to go with a double pivot. I'm going to go with, I was just going to guess, this is a tough one. I think I've got to go Kante.
Okay,
he's just one of my favourite players in world football, and just an absolute machine of a player.
So such a tidy tackler, isn't he? And,
I mean, brilliant.
So explosive going forward for such a small lad. He's great every all round, you know what I mean? But that role, that defensive role, like kind of they used to call the Makelele role. Like,
he's evolved it.
Him and Fabinho are even a little bit different, that role. Fabinho probably gets that longer stretch and tackles, and it's probably, you would say, a little bit wins more headers. And but I mean, they both dominated from there. And Kante, obviously, more experienced than Fabinho in there. And different type of players, even though they're in the same role, you know, they play it a little bit different. But
precisely,
you probably give Kante the edge, wouldn't you, over Fabinho? I don't think there's a whole lot now, you know. I think
no, there isn't. I mean, it was between those two. It was always between Fabinho and Kante. I was tempted to play them together, but I do think you want two slightly different players in a double pivot. So I'd go Kante, and then next to him, I go. It's going to sound again biased, but I'd go Thiago next to him. Okay. Thiago is just, when he controls the game, there's nothing like it. Like I think he was robbed of this season because of the injury at Everton. But I think once we saw towards the back end of him getting a rhythm and him playing in his preferred sort of role in midfield, we saw that he is a class and a level above a lot of players in world football. So him and Kante for me.
Yeah,
midfield duo.
and going back to even talking again about keeping the day trippers, he was saying a couple of years ago he went to the new camp and seen Thiago and Messi, and just the ball, how fascinating they were passing the ball to each other on the chest. It was like heads and volleys between the two of them. How unbelievable they were. And my justifying why Thiago wasn't as good consistently last season is probably what a lot of us expected. As you said, no pre-season, comes in very late in the window, had only won like a treble at Bayern Munich, 7 league titles in a row, man the match in the Champions League final. Comes into Liverpool, and obviously it's gonna take a little bit longer to settle in. There's no fans, there's COVID, you don't have that interaction as much with people as you once had, and it's a factor, no doubt about it, human beings. But he gets that injury at Everton. He comes on against Chelsea, bosses the game. Everton really good in the game, gets the injury, and he's out there for 3 months. And we were all, remember around Christmas time, we were waiting, when is he back? When is he back? And it felt like he was never going to come back. Comes on then against Newcastle, hits the bar, really good game. But that was when we started declining as a team, where we went through a bad patch, and then we're expecting him then to just doesn't work like that, you know. But as he settled in, he was consistent. He weathered that storm. He got through it. He did again evolve, and he showed how world class he is. And I'm looking forward to him next season, because I think he's not getting the credit that he deserves. How good he finished that season off was one of the main factors why we got where we got. And even his attitude. No, I love his arrogance. His arrogance in a good way. He comes on, the stare he has, the look he has, and he gets on. And he's boss, isn't he? He just shows like, I'm going to take over here.
He's a team player as well. He's such a team player. Like, we've even seen it in the Euros, where he's not been started, but he's still first to join in with celebrations and things like that. You can tell he's professional. Again, it's testament to the recruitment at Liverpool that you're getting players in who not are just good footballers, but are good people as well. I think that's really important for squad harmony. A shout out to Kev
O'Sullivan. The problem for us is a 4-2-3-1 is the number 9 spot that needs addressing. That's well, look, to be honest with you, before we go back onto Callum there, Kev, my issue is I would just love someone ready-made to come into Liverpool as a number 9, someone that's gonna score a goal with half chances, is gonna be cutthroat, and like Callum said there, Haaland would be exceptional. But then again, I think we will see more of Salah in that centre role next season. I know people don't want to hear it. And like there was talk of Kingsley Coman coming in. Maybe that's it. Look, whatever Klopp does, I'm gonna 100% trust him. The question doesn't find so far, and it's come back on me. So I'm gonna trust him. But at the moment, as I speak here, live and exclusive, as I said here, I'm adding these little buzzwords in. I think we do need a number 9. There's no doubt about it. But Callum. So back in Thiago, Kante in that holding role, unbelievable, world class keeper, defence, and 2 in that pivot role midfield. Who next do we want to? We've another 4.
All right. So in the number 10 position, I think it's only one man, Lionel Messi. The best attacking player I've seen in my life over the course of a career. I think Ronaldo, as in R9, is the most talented player I've seen in my lifetime, but injuries robbed him of what could have been. Messi has just, every single season, you could make a compilation of his season, and it's just sublime. Like, he's just so good. I think he's at a point now where he's so good, he's almost underrated by some people. And it's his expectations through the roof. Like, you expect 60 goals a season, but you watch him play for 90 minutes, he's just incredible. So him in the number 10 position. Salah on the right, I think, again, speaks for himself. Since he's joined Liverpool, no one's touching him in terms of numbers and output and performances. Clutch moments, he's got it all, he's done it all. On the left-hand side now, it's a bit of a tough one. So I'm in between 3 players. So I'm in between Neymar, Mane, and Gnabry. I think I may go I'm going to go Mane.
And why does he edge it? Just because he's proven it in the Premier League?
And I think
he gets on with it a little bit more, maybe, is it? Where the other 2 lads can be a bit more, like, they're either a hindrance or a help, haven't they? Now, that's just my opinion, you know. Like, I love Neymar. I think it's exceptional.
Neymar's the most talented out of all of them.
Unbelievable. But there's been a lot of times where he's just... if it hasn't went his way...
left a lot to be desired,
and that's been very unfortunate. You know, that's obviously just a mental thing, but what a player. And Gnabry as well. I mean, world class. Mane, yeah, this the season where it hasn't been great for him, has he? He's come out and spoke about it himself, which I think took a lot to do, and he came out at the right time when we were all questioning him and people talking about selling them and all sorts. You know what I mean? Yeah, unbelievable. And who else we got here?
Oh, sorry, no. No, I'm going to stick with that. I was thinking of another name. No, I'm going to stick with that.
Right. Okay, yeah.
I was thinking CR7.
CR7, yeah.
The only thing he doesn't really play.
Yeah,
he doesn't really play from the left, though, does he?
No, not all the time.
Kind of float.
Win central. Yeah. He's in between those three positions.
Yeah. And if I'm judging him based on like the Ronaldo of today, I don't think it's the same Ronaldo of a couple of years ago. So if I'm judging the team on today, then I wouldn't have Ronaldo in there, which I know is going to be quite controversial.
Yeah. Well, Kev O'Sullivan there's a bit going for Messi and CR7, obviously. Yeah, grandkids, we saw these two. Unbelievable, Kev. Yeah, that's... And then CR7 on the left, Lewandowski at the focal point, yes.
So here it is now. So I'm between three strikers for the striking role. It's between Lewandowski, Kane and Haaland.
Right, who gets the nod? Not wrong in any of them. Look, I mean, whether you do go for... I mean, Kane, Premier League experience, but... My issue with Kane, it's not an issue. Matches. Look, it's not an issue, but big match hasn't always turned up, especially finals, hasn't scored. But that, I suppose that's easy to say.
That's the team as well, yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to say. Lewandowski has done so much on his own, unbelievably experienced, but we haven't seen him in the Premier League. And then
and he's been at Bayern Munich, which is the best team in that league by a distance.
By a long shot. I think they're going for whatever in a row, but I mean, they're going to break records more and more. They're just going from strength to strength. Who should have won? Haaland.
Haaland's still young, so hasn't probably proven enough. He scored
more goals in games he's played, as we said earlier. So it's hard to pick one, but I'll go with one.
I'm gonna go Harry Kane. You know.
Okay. Yeah.
I think his creativity gets it for me as well. I think he's very underrated as an overall footballer. I think his intelligence is underrated. I think people just see him as a in the right place at a right time striker, but he scores with right foot, left foot, head, all types of goals, whether it be from inside the box, outside the box, clinical as anything. So I'm going to go Harry Kane, but I wouldn't sit there and be angry if anyone said Lewandowski. But they're both absolute quality. Yeah,
there's quality there. And do you think Kane, who's he going to move to? Who's your bets on, Callum, in the summer? We know he's going to leave Spurs, no doubt about it now.
Do you know what? I'm 50. No, I'm not going to say 50-50. I'm 80-20 that he leaves and stays. So 20% that he stays. I don't think it's going to be an easy deal for Manchester City because I think Levy will really dig his heels in there. I don't think Barcelona, Real Madrid or Bayern Munich have got the money to bring in Harry Kane. It's only really Manchester United, Man City. I don't think he goes Chelsea. I think that rivalry stops him going Chelsea. I do see him moving on in the summer, though. I think he would have had a gentleman's
agreement. He's run out of options, isn't he, really?
Yeah, I think it's only the two Manchester clubs.
After United spending so much on Sancho, and obviously they'll need to strengthen other positions, are they going to bring in over 100 million or whatever with
I wouldn't be surprised.
Sports and go all the way with it? I don't know. That's my only question. I think I'd say, look, he could have already, off the record, of knows where he's going to go, you know what I mean? But I don't think there's going to be as clubs spending as big as what they normally do. It could be completely wrong. It's just my thing, and I don't think we've seen the effects of COVID financially and everything else it's had on clubs. And also you look at a lot of the top clubs, they don't need massive improvements. You know, there's a couple of players here and there they need. And when you look at Liverpool, for example, we've players coming back from injury. And I hate to say this, and a lot of people
what
you're saying, like, and yeah, exactly. You know, and look, I mean, I hate to say it, but there's no doubt about it with some of the players that we've had out for, if not all of last season, most of it are going to come in and we know hit the ground running. They're going to be in that starting 11 straight away. So it's going to be, and we'll only get the best of Thiago. The other players improve, but we got to do it. But look, Callum, that starting 11, that's unbelievably. I mean, you can't disagree with it. Then there's also an argument, who does Messi go to in the summer? Does he stay?
I think he stays at Barca. I think Barca are trying to trim down their wage bill and their assets at the moment so that he can stay.
Yeah. Kev says their PSG can fund it by selling Mbappe, but would they sell Mbappe to bring in Kane? That's the...
Yeah, and I don't think I don't see Harry Kane going to PSG either.
Yeah.
I see him want to stay in the league and break the Premier League records and things like that.
Yeah, and it's also a good point about Mbappe because I think he's out of contract, isn't he, next season? So he doesn't go this summer. or sign a contract. Yeah, Mbappe to Liverpool on a free, a good night deal and everything else. So we're not going to get into that though.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, no, but look, it's strong strength there. Everything you want. There's flair, creativity. There's defensively strong. So that's brilliant. Current best 11. Where do you start? Where do you end? You know what I mean? You can go on and go on. And as you said there, you 3-4 players for the positions. It's not just straightforward to say this two I'm gonna go for. Even when we're spoiled for choice, Callum, we don't know what we want, do we? You know what I mean?
Tell me about
it. So yeah, look, we'll wait and see what happens. So Callum, Kopish, you have future channels coming up. Where can everybody get you on this week? Have you got a show on tonight? Or
yeah, we have. So we got one at 7 tonight. Then we're not sure. We're gonna go. We've obviously got the one at 7 tonight. Friday, we're definitely gonna be on in the evening. We're gonna do maybe 1 or 2 more shows during the week, but we haven't decided dates and times yet. So we will kind of decide that over the next sort of 24 hours. So we'll let people know on social media. But yeah, those are the best place to find me. I don't think I'm doing anything else this week. I might be doing a show on the Sanderson show, an MMA show on the Sanderson show in the lead up to the Conor McGregor fight. Yeah, that's about
one of our own here, McGregor. Yeah.
What's your are you MMA? Your MMA fan?
No, I admire the sport, but I didn't jump on the whole thing. I'm more into the boxing, but the MMA, look, I mean, it's an unbelievable sport. And obviously, best of luck, whoever wins or whatever they do. But no, I'm not into as much there as some of the lads.
Kev's just reminded me. Friday night with Chris over on the LFC Day Trippers as well with Abby as well. That's our last show for a series we're doing at the moment. So yeah, I'll be over there as well.
Brilliant. I'll tune into you on that. Big up to the Day Trippers. They're getting bigger and bigger as well. And big shout out there, Christopher Edwards, Howdy, and Stephen Somerville, Irish Rugby. Big up, lads. Big up to you, lads. Callum, it was a pleasure, brother. As I said, a brother up in a different mother. Thanks to get you on. Big honour of mine. And best of luck with obviously the show going forward, the merchandise, all the graft, the hard work they're putting in, and just keep it lit. And then when we do get that big, hopefully marquee signing into Liverpool, and actually, here's a stat, by the way, Liverpool don't bring in the major big signing, marquee signing until at least 52, 53 days into the window. We've only officially opened, so people just stay patient. It will happen, you know. It's a big stat since Klopp has come in, so we always tend to kind of dig our heels a bit, and just as people are getting agonising and frustrating, and there's people who just want to sell Genie and bring in Thiago, we bring in 3 players and keep Genie, so don't worry about it. But Callum, no, honestly, an honour. Everybody go over and like and subscribe to Kopish. Obviously, lads are doing some excellent stuff over there. Buy the beanie, hat, the hoodie, the t-shirt. I said, even if it's something you're not really into, buy it. All the funds go to the lads and help them out. And obviously they can tag us on Instagram or whatever else. Now I like my Instagram stories. I like to tag people and stuff. So that's just me. Share the love. You know what I mean?
Bless you.
Yeah. So Callum, pleasure, as I said, and best of luck, buddy, and best of luck with tonight's show. And that's it. I'm finished talking. Anything else you want to say?
I just want to say to you, bro, keep on doing what you're doing. I love how you do these shows. I know you got some big guests coming up in the future as well, so I'm going to be tuning into that as well. But I've got to say to you, thanks for all the support. Thanks for all your kind words, not just on the show, but behind the scenes as well. And it's just a pleasure to get to know you on a personal level as well as on YouTube as well. So thank you for having me on. Thanks for giving me this platform. And we'll definitely do this again, man. And we'll do loads of content going forward, man. So thank you.
Absolutely. As I said, if I've had a bit more time, I could do more on this, be a bit creative, because I love it now. You know, you got a hold for it, the support, the help from all the lads putting in there in the chat and all. It really gives you that confidence and that momentum and belief to keep going. You know what I mean? And to keep talking about the wonderful, great club that we once grew up watching Fowler, McManaman play, and supporting them and debating about and getting into the banter with. So honestly, Callum, a pleasure as well, and we'll take it from there, and you'll be on soon. And by the way, to everybody else, George Septon has announced he will come on Thursday. Anyone that doesn't know him, the voice of Anfield, over 50 years, part of the former champion, big legend as well, the club. You know what I mean? He's up there with Dalglish, Klopp, anybody's managers. He's been through so much, so many highs and lows and in between moments at the club. So it'll be interesting to hear George's story. We're going to do a live at 4 o'clock on Thursday. We're all set for so far, so once there's no change. So remember to all tune in for that. If not on the live at a later stage, and leave a like, comment, and to subscribe, obviously, this channel. So Callum, big up to you, brother. Take care.
Thank you, bro.
Back on soon. See you all. Thanks to everybody that's tuned in. Cheers.